Hey, Arcturus here. Today we're looking at the Crane Gun Team and Iron Hail Gunners for Grand Cathay and Warhammer the Old World. These were released in the Defenders of the Great Bastion set, which is where I have them from. For these models, they are relatively mono-pose. Now you do get two poses for both the Gunner and the Shield Bearer on the Crane Gun Team, and you get three poses for the Iron Hail Gunner, but there are no little extras that go on them. Each model in that pose is the same. Putting them together was not too difficult. I noticed that they have a few extra pieces that are separated that I don't feel should have been separated, because in the past I built kits where that's not the case. But they do work relatively well. We'll look at the Crane Gunners first. Some very nice details here. You get a shield bearer with little telescope, some nice little items here on his belt, lightly like leather armored. Same for the gunner there. You have like a powder horn, and then some other bits, as well as some swords for defense if they get into melee. In this pose, they're sort of adjusting the sight here on their gun. The gun does sort of rest here on the shield, just beyond it. Fits very nicely on this rectangular base. Nice and close. So that's one pose. The second pose here for the shield bearer and for the gunner is the gunner's more in the firing position, and then the shield bearer here has his hand on his sword as opposed to the telescope. He also has a pistol on the side there as well for when things do get close. The Crane Gunner has, the powder, also has a pistol, which was on the other one as well. I forgot to mention it. And then you can see a little telescope here on this one that's, put away, little satchel there. And then the front of the shield also sitting there on the shield. Now you can make some slight variations to this on how the gunner is lined up over the shield bearer, but there aren't a ton of options for how you pose them, so they will look relatively uniform across your squad. Now, you can do what I did, which was mix and match which shield bearer and which gunner you have. So I have two with gunner 1 and shield bearer 1, and then two with gunner 1, shield bearer 2, and then two with shield bearer 2, gunner 2, and shield bearer 2, gunner whatever. However that works out. There are 8 of them. You can basically get two. You can do a combination of each of the poses where you get 4 different posed models to give you a little variation visually. The shields do have some differences. So when you do have them, you can do them squatted up by shield. Makes it a little easier to distinguish them for 2 squads. More than that, you may need to come up with a different method. They do have these sort of teeth to kind of set the shield in. I had a little difficulty getting that to line up perfectly on all of them, which I will discuss now, I guess. So when assembling these, you build basically the 2 guys separately. They're not connected in any way. You build 2 separate guys, which is why you can mix and match them. They do have a few pieces which feel a little unnecessary. So for instance, the shield bearer, the arm connected to the shield is one piece. The shield is a separate piece. And then the connection between the arm and the torso is a separate arm piece. So you wind up with this little assembly here on the upper right. On the right here, you have this little like shoulder arm piece and then this arm piece. So if that doesn't line up, your shield doesn't sit correctly. If your arm attached to the shield, that does have grooves cut, so it should line up pretty well. But if the piece to the shoulder doesn't line up correctly, or the arm on that shoulder piece doesn't line up correctly, it does sort of shift. And that is true on both shield bearers. Now for the gunners, you have a similar problem, because you have this piece for the gunner adjusting the sights, which is fine. That arm is okay. But then you have the shoulder piece, which is not attached to the gun, and then you have to sort of line it up. Now there are grooves, and so it is pretty easy to do on both gunners, but it feels like an extra piece. With the grooves, it feels like that arm piece that does not come attached to the gun, that 42 right there, should have been attached to the gun. It just feels like there's an extra piece there for no reason. Now, I know the argument is it helps reduce mold lines, but there's still plenty of mold lines. Like, there's some pretty noticeable mold lines on the gun, which are a little difficult to remove because you have these little sights. So that is something to be aware of. I felt that the crane gun teams took more work than the Iron Hail gunners, which I guess is true because technically there are 16 bodies on the crane gun teams because you build the gunner and shield bearer separately, and you build a total of 8 models for that. So there are technically like 16 guys you're building there. Iron Hail gunners were a little easier in my opinion. So you get 3 different poses for the Iron Hail gunners. You have this kneeling pose, which I actually liked the best. This was the nicest to put together because the handguard here was not really breakable because of how it's attached. Some nice details. They also have pistols and swords and some armor, some caches of powder, pouch with some probably bullets or something in it. Just a very nice model all around. Nicely detailed, perhaps almost too detailed in a sense. They're a little intimidating to kind of think about. So, and they are all very nicely detailed, including the crane gun team. So that's pose. That's one pose. Here is a second pose, and each of the poses do have different heads. In putting them together, I think you might be able to mix and match the heads relatively easily, but it's not as simple as just swapping them out. I think you would need to adjust a few things. You can get some slight variation in the poses as well by adjusting how the head sits in the socket. So this is one where I broke off the handguard there. You can just see it. Let me find one for comparison. So here's one where it's not broken off and it just snapped off and there's no hope of getting that back on. So when you are clipping these out or cleaning up any sprue marks, do be careful so that you don't have too many of those going off. Now this gun does, to get the hole there in the mouth of the gun, does have 2 pieces. It's actually a relatively easy piece. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. It basically has no mold lines, which is very nice. Or if it had mold lines, I didn't see them and I won't notice them until I've primed it, which is when you notice those, you get some nice little extras here on the different location for some of those powder spheres there. A couple extra, same pistol and sword, and then another pouch as well, slightly different layout, and of course different pose and different hairpiece. So very nice to put together. So this is also one where I know at least one of them had that trigger guard pop off. Do be careful when you put them together on the first 2 poses in the instructions. This one also has a pistol. This one is a little awkwardly placed because it's here in the front, which means a lot of it's covered by the gun, but you can just see the end of it, so that'll be difficult to paint. And slightly different pose, different headpiece, different location for some of those things. This one has a powder horn instead of some of the extras there. Overall, a nice set of models. I think they're a great addition to the Cathay army. Again, they have the same problem of having a few extra pieces that doesn't feel like they should be there. So when you put this gun on, you have to, this shoulder piece here is a separate piece from this gauntlet and gun. That's all one piece, and then the shoulder piece is a separate piece, which you have to glue together, which it has notches and everything, so it's fine, but it does feel a little extra to have that as a separate piece. And I imagine it's just optimized for sprue layout for something, but it's not like it's to optimize to get rid of mold lines, because there are plenty of mold lines on this. The gun, again, has mold lines. It is very difficult to get all of them. I stopped worrying about some of them because they are so small on the gun. There's still going to be some left up here on that little curl there, but it was very difficult to get in there. A couple different hair pieces, head pieces. You can get some slight, as I said earlier, you can get some slight variation in the models by adjusting how that head sits, but it's very slight. You can see minor variation there, which is probably only noticeable because I built them as opposed to anything else. For putting these together, I did prefer putting together the Iron Hail gunners instead of the crane gunners. I did do them second though, so maybe that would be reversed if I had started with them. The crane gunners, when you put them together, just be aware that you are building 2 dudes per gun team, so it does feel like you're doing more work than a gunner should have. I don't know how else to describe it. When I put together the rattling guns, they are smaller models too, to be fair, but they didn't feel like that. It was very easy to put them together comparatively, although they are smaller models. With some of the newer kits, not all of them, but with some of them, it definitely feels like they've gone, oh, we need to maximize detail to a point where it feels a little extra for how many pieces each model has. Now, these aren't as bad as some of them, like the Solar Auxilla, which I think I built on this channel as well. We're like 16 pieces per infantry guy, and we're talking 25 millimeter infantry, I think, or 28 millimeter. Just too much, simply too much. These are not as bad, but they do feel like more work than it feels like they should feel like. And maybe that's just my impression of them. I'm not sure. I do like them though. They look really cool. Well, that's all I have for this week. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.